thank you guys for being here. My name is Dominic. I'm Calvin, and together we'll be talking about leveraging the power of nonverbal communication. So, humans communicate with far more than just words. Being adept at nonverbals helps you increase your power and persuasive ability in the business world. So, an introduction. So, humans experience basic and visceral reactions to signals they receive from other human beings. This is why we tend to like to do business face-to-face, person-to-person. So when you do selling, when you do trading, you can see the reactions and what goes on really in their face, and try to see if you can psychologically like them. Humans pay very close attention to nonverbal communications. All right. So a couple key questions for business people are: how do you shape your performance at the head of a conference table or behind the podium to really reinforce what you want to convey to the audience? Two, how can you ensure that the messages you broadcast physically quite apart from anything you say to increase your credibility and persuasiveness? So what is it that we really look forward in nonverbals? Here are 5 key elements that are very important for nonverbals. Number 1 is: how comfortable is the speaker really in his or her own skin? Are they overconfident? Are they shy? Do they mind being in front of people? Do they like public speaking? 2, how he or she stands and moves. Do they quiver at the feet? Do they hate being in front of people? Do they pace back and forth, side to side, front and back? How he or she looks at others in the room. Do they got a buddy in the back corner that they, constantly keep eye contact with? Or do they equally distribute, their attention among the audience? Or do they not just make any eye contact at all? Tone of the voice. We'll be coming back to tone of the voice a lot during this presentation, but it's a key element. And also how he or she dresses. We all kind of did business casual today. It's important how you dress up to, show how interested you are in your topic, and also respect your audience. Together, these variables constitute a constant flow of data running underneath whatever the speaker is saying, and flow is really important to bring all 5 of these nonverbals together. So there are 3 parts to nonverbals. There's vocal dynamics, which I'll be talking about. There's visual thinking, where Dylan will be talking about. And lastly, gestures and facial expressions, which Calvin will be wrapping up for us. Part 1, which talks about vocal dynamics, states that there are few things better than getting an audience to listen to your message than lively, dynamic, and empathetic speaking voice. Empathy, in the sense, is an in-the-moment quality, which tells you listeners that you're communicating with them either on an individual or more emotional level. Listeners use clues to judge whether they should trust us when we speak or not. Now, I'll give you all 3 examples over here. You got a sneaky car salesman, a prison thug, and your grandma. Now, I want to ask y'all, what comes to mind when you think of a sneaky car salesman? Someone just shout it out.
Just talking very fast.
There you go, talking very fast. They want you to drop $70,000 and buy that brand new Mercedes, when all you need is a $20,000 Camry. Prison thug. You don't trust that person. There's a reason why that guy's in prison. He has a very deep voice, not trustworthy. And grandma, very soothing, trustworthy. You just want to fall asleep on her shoulders. Unless if grandma's a sneaky car salesman and a prison thug, then stay away from her. Pay attention to the 4 important tools of vocal delivery. You got emphasis, pitch variety, pacing, and rhythm. Not only will you be staying on message, you'll also be showing your listeners how much their opinion really means to you. And do a little recap on vocal dynamics. Like I mentioned, the 4 important tools: emphasis, pitch, pacing, and rhythm. Susan Berkeley, I forgot the name of the book that Susan Berkeley wrote. It was, but in the book she states something about people listening to you respond to vocal pitch, inflection, and tone. Now I could stand up here. You easily lose your listeners if anything in your voice seems threatening, boring, phony, or hostile. Now, last night I had a class from 7 to 10 p.m. and we did 5-6 presentations. And towards the end, around 9:30, people were falling asleep. They were texting. And one of the last presentations, the guys talking, it was such a monotone, boring tone that you just almost want to fall asleep and you just want to get out. But having a very lively pitch and being clear and concise is very important to your message, to your audience, as well as being a good speaker. If I say the sentence, we think this is exactly the message our customer wants to hear. If I'm like the head board, talking to, my sales team. Or if I say, this is exactly the message our customers want to hear. There's a difference between the two ways I say it, and maybe the second way, I can ignite more enthusiasm from my team, I can ignite more responses, and maybe later on down the road, get something a little better. I'll pass it along to Dylan, which will be talking about visual thinking.
Okay, so I'm going to talk about visual thinking, and visual thinking is just what it is, it's visual. So all speeches and presentations must have some kind of a visual component, such as a PowerPoint, to keep your audience focused. And another thing to keep in mind is that you yourself are a visual component. So you got to carry yourself with confidence. You got to command the space around you. And you got to be fluid with your movements. I mean, if you're too erratic with your movements, and people lose focus and like, what's this guy doing up there? And one easy way to be comfortable doing presentations, you want to have a conversational tone. If you're just up there giving a speech, people get bored, like Don went over a few moments, like his class last night. Have a conversational tone. You'll be much more comfortable in a conversation than you are just getting lectured or giving a speech to somebody. And one thing I want to go over was welcoming people into your space. So, like today we might have questions and answer sessions. So that's somebody raises their hand, you don't want to be like, yeah, you right there. You want to, I'll have open palm, like, yeah, because it's welcoming, It's just a welcoming gesture. And I'm going to go over a few things that we need to avoid while speaking. And this is also during questioning and answering. And this is one thing I didn't know, because I actually do that a lot, is nodding repeatedly, which is where, somebody might be asking you a question, so, you nod, like, you're trying to give off a feeling that you're understanding them, that you're listening to them. But the negative side effect to that is that you might be rushing them. The person might think this person's very impatient, and you're like, okay, come on, let's get on with it, And the second thing is taking a hunched over posture. So when you have a hunched over posture, if I'm just talking about it like this, just gives off an impression that I'm discomforted by the topic that I'm discussing, or I'm not very interested in it, I'm just trying to get it over with. So you want to look confident, your posture needs to be straight upright. And another one, like I went over a little bit before, using overly large or abrupt movements. It's a way, an article that we read, it says it reduces the listener's confidence, because you're not coming across as a leader. You're like, this guy has no control over what he's doing. So it's distracting. And so the two main things to memorize from visual thinking are, you want to incorporate visual awareness and physical command into your presentation style. So it's part of your on-stage, basically like a performance. And it should improve your presentation dramatically. I'm going to pass it on to Calvin to go over gestures and facial expression.
All right, my part is gestures and facial expressions. You want to use these to express ideas and emotions that are inherent in your speech. Just got to be careful on overdoing it, because if you overdo it, it kind of seems like the gestures are more important than the actual speech. Some of the essential components are being well-defined, strong, non-repetitive, individualized gestures. And when using gestures, you want to use your whole arm, from the shoulder down, not just your hands. And if you're talking to a wider, like a bigger crowd, you want to widen your gestures just to engage them more better. Also, you want to lean, instead of hunching forward, you want to, like Dylan was saying, you want to lean towards your audience at key moments to persuade, just to persuade the audience. And the last thing was facial expressions. In your speech, you want to express what you really feel, which is important, and should not be ignored when giving a speech. Sometimes when you look at people when you talk, their facial expressions can show more than what they're talking about. So you talk to a cashier, and you can always tell that cashier doesn't want to be there by their facial expressions. They'll say hello, how you doing, but you can tell they don't want to be there. So just remember to recognize your facial expressions when giving a speech, because either it can hurt you or it can help you. And just to recap on it, the four essential components as a communicator is well-defined, strong, non-repetitive, and individualized gestures. You want to use your whole arm, not just your hands, and don't ignore expressions when giving a speech.
So I hope you guys brought your scantrons because we got a quiz. We'll go back to next week. We'll read it out loud.
Please.
We printed it out. So what do we look for in nonverbals? Together, these variables constitute a constant blank of data running underneath whatever the speaker is saying. And what are the four important tools of vocal delivery? Incorporating blank and blank into your presentation style will make you a well-rounded make for a well-rounded presentation. List more than 3 things to avoid when speaking or answering questions to the audience.
Thank you.